All right, we are officially live. All right, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So I'm hosting our power hour for today. If you are been around, you know what power hour it is. Kind of everyone does them slightly different, but the basics of the activities are the same. We run through the business activity tracker, and that is the gist of the activities you do to build your business and move it forward. But what I wanted to do today was basically create a resource that could be used if this is somebody's very first power hour, or when you hear the word power hour and someone's like, oh, just do a power hour of your business. It's like, well, what is it? I know that I'm guilty of running these at times where I just kind of jump right in and get to it without taking into consideration that maybe somebody's listening to this for the very first time and just the word power hour itself is confusing. So we're going to start at the very basics and run through what the power hour is designed to do, and then give time slots for each of those activities. So the gist of a power hour is it's kind of built on the idea that you could build this business if you put an intentional focused hour of work in every day. Now, that intentional focused hour of work is not your workout. It is not sitting down and reading personal development for 10 minutes of the 60 of the power hour. It is really geared towards the activities that are going to build to move your business forward. The activities that are going to allow you to personally connect with new people, to create conversations, to build those relationships, and eventually get to a point where you could invite this person to become a part of your team, of your boot camp, or whatever it is that you're focused on. So when it comes to the business activity tracker, and you can do this, I was actually in the middle of pulling it up online. You can do it on paper. So the business activity tracker is in the back office. I was going to give you like an actual, show you how to pull it up. I am a pen and paper girl because I like to write things down. I like to cross things off. But I did want to, for purposes of this, show you guys how to do it here as well so that you could find it. I think it can be helpful if you are a pen and paper. I actually had gone and just printed a bunch of copies off, and then I bound them at like a local print shop. And then it's something that I can flip back through, that I can go, kind of go through. And to me, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who's like, I just don't know how to get anybody else to join me. And I asked her, I said, well, what have you been doing? She's like, well, I'm posting and no one knew's coming. And I was like, oh, sweetheart, that's so much more than the business. Your posts are such a small piece of what you do to build your business forward. And when it comes down to what it is that helps build a really successful business, it's the non-sexy parts. It's the actual getting into your inbox and messaging people. And I can tell you that most of the people who are on my team are on there because I reached out to them, not because I made a really pretty post that allowed them to say, oh my gosh, you're speaking to me, I'm in. It came from a connection somewhere to where I followed them or they followed me, but our relationship grew and got to a point of, hey, I'm going to join you in some way, shape, or form because of the connections and because of the actual invite. So I want to make sure that that's clear, that yes, making posts and putting things up on your stories is part of the business, and that's part of the business activity tracker and part of the things that you need to be doing on a daily basis. But more than that, it's actual conversations. It's getting into the inbox of other people, letting people know that you are a true human, that you are there to help them with whatever it might be. So I'm going to share my screen. It's Thursday in the Beachbody world. My computer, guys, maybe I won't share my screen because it's saying that nothing is available to share. My computer has been killing me. Let me try it one more time. See if I share screen now. It says message unknown, Google Chrome unknown. So weird. Son of a gun. Okay, so I can't do it. But when you log into your back office, there's literally a button on your home screen that says Daily Tracker, right? Daily Tracker? Success Club System Activity Tracker. We're going to pass over the part that says be proof the products work, where work out and drink your Shakeology. Those are things that you should be doing every day as part of your own personal self-care, personal journey. Yes, they're important, but that's not purpose of the power hour. This power hour is the second tab here where we say connect, invite, follow up. You'll see guidelines for how long you should spend on each activity. And if you actually added those up, they're more than an hour. So I want to be clear that while the very first one that says initiate connections and expand your network, it says 20 minutes. Make this fit you. If you have 30 minutes, maybe you're doing 5 minutes at each activity. If you have the hour, maybe it's 10 minutes. And if you have longer than that, maybe it is the full 20 minutes. But it's important to do each of these things so that you you don't get to a point where you run out of people to talk to. That's one of the kind of worst parts in the business to get to, is when you're like, I have no one else to invite because I've invited them all. But if you're doing these things every day, inviting, initiating connections, expanding your network, inviting more people, then you have more people to follow up. And it is kind of like a rolling train. But if you're not doing all the pieces, you will get to a point where you run out of people. So I am going to, for sake of being able to use this as a resource, I will do probably about 5 to 7 minutes per activity and kind of walk you through that. But understand that you can do this at your own pace. If you're watching the recording, you can hit pause when we get to a section, set your own timer of how long how long you have to spend on that activity. But it is super important to do each of these things. So initiate connections and expand your network is the very first thing that we're going to do. This one is kind of mindless and fun. This is not what we're inviting. This is not what we're following. This is simply being a human, being a human being and being social on social media. So one of the things that I like to do is I will go through people who use stories. In my mind, if you're using stories, then you're more active on social. If you're more active on social, you're more likely to respond to me. So when I'm looking for people, I'm going to look for people who are actively active on social media. One of the things that you can do, you can go to an actual post or a reel of yours, see who's liked it, and look to see who has the little red circle around it. Or you can go to an account of somebody that you really like. I know the Olympics are going on right now. So if you have an Olympian that you really like, that could be someone who's active on that social. My daughter plays hockey. So I'm going to go check out USA women's hockey. We'll see who's active on the USA women's hockey team or USA women's hockey page. I feel like I've totally followed them. There is a US, let's see, women's hockey. There's got to be it. Nothing's coming up. Why not? I feel like I've seen it must be USA. You know what? I'll go to Jocelyn USA 17. She is an Olympic gold medalist with the hockey team. Okay, so that's the page I'm going to choose to go to. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to one of her most recent posts and I'm going to look at who's liked it. And I'm literally just going to look through the people who've liked it and tap on their stories. If I see somebody who I can connect with, I'm going to respond to their story. I'm going to follow them. I'm not going to worry if they follow me back right now. I'm not going to worry about, is it my ideal person? I'm literally just say, who can I conversate with right now to build those relationships? Yes, Super Bowl is coming up. The Super Bowl, or like the people who are singing on the halftime show, like Snoop Dogg is super cool, right? So you could go to those pages. There's another one on that. I was thinking Snoop Dogg. It's called I Am 30 AF. So being that I am currently 36 years old, it is like one of my all-time favorite Instagram accounts. I Am 30 AF, and it's hilarious and super relatable to me. And it's one of my favorite pages to look at. So if I'm looking at that page for entertainment, then probably other people who are like me and who might have something in common with me are looking at that one too. I like that one better. That's what I'm going to go with. I Am 30 AF. It's hilarious. And I'm going to look at one of their posts and I'm going to see who has interacted on that post or who has liked that post. And I'm going to just watch their stories to see who can I have that connection with. So for sake of time, we're going to just set this first timer for 5 minutes. Again, if you're watching the recording and you have more time, spend more time on it. If you have 3 minutes, spend 3. Spend whatever you can. The idea is simply to initiate conversations. So we shall do that. And then it just gets awkward silence. So here's an example. One posted like what looked like peanut butter cookies that are gluten-free and dairy-free, which is my preferred way to eating. Not an allergy, so I don't always do it, but that's how I generally eat. So she posted a picture of these cookies and she's like, these are so good. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a cookie connoisseur and I try to stay gluten-free and dairy-free as well. Can you share the recipe? Like, I genuinely want the recipe. So this is what we mean by making connections and just initiating those conversations. I'm not trying to sell her on anything. I just wanted to connect with her.
Is this that 30 AF?
Yeah, it's so funny. Yep, I am 30 AF. So funny. It'll just crack you up. Right? 5 minutes flies when you're having fun. Okay, so obviously, you might find people who really would be like somebody you want to carry that conversation with. If you guys aren't already aware, when you are like, if you see a post, you can save it and you can save it to a collection. When you save things to a collection, it allows you to go back to them in an easier way. So I'm trying to think. If you like click on the little 3 lines in the top of your Instagram, you can go under saved and it'll open up collections if you save them by any sort of like ideal customer, ideal client. And then when you're just wanted to go back and engage with people who you engaged with the last time, it just is an easier way to filter through them, look at them and go back and engage with their content, especially if you are in the middle of, you can do this for so many different ways. You could do this if like with current clients, if you want to make sure, like it can get, people's feeds can get buried. We don't always see certain people's stuff. So if you have somebody, if you have a list on your Instagram of current clients or potential clients or current coaches or potential coaches, you can filter it this way to where when you have the time to go and engage with people's stuff, you can go directly to those people so that they know that you weren't just there to like sell them a thing and then, not engage with them on social anymore. So, all right, so moving along, initiate connections, expand your network. The next thing is the actual invite process. Now, again, when you're doing this consistently on a daily basis, you're building their connections, you have those people you're talking to, the invite part comes a little bit easier because you're already in their inbox and you're having those conversations. When I go to invite, the first thing that I like to do is go to my most recent post, or even stories would work just the same. So whether it's somebody who might have liked a post or has been watching your stories, I would kind of use a similar language. Like, hey, thanks so much for the love of my post, or thanks so much for following along in my stories. Either way, if your post had a direct call to action in it, it's really easy. If I always ask, if you were just liking the post to show the love, I appreciate it. But if you were liking it because you're interested in getting information about my February bootcamp, I'd love to send over the details. Either way, let me know. So I keep it open-ended so that they can let me know whether it is or it isn't. So I want to initiate a response back from them. But whether it's following you on your stories or liking and engaging on your posts, that connection lets people know, again, you're not just posting content for the likes, you're actually engaging back with those people who are liking it. So that's a very simple language that I use. You can alter that depending on what you're inviting to. I'm currently in bootcamp mode, so I am trying to get a couple more people in for my boot camp. So if you have a call to action on your stories on a daily basis and you're talking about your boot camp on a daily basis, it's really easy to go back to one of those stories. For example, maybe you shared a success from one of your boot campers, or just a success from yourself, or even somebody else in the group if you don't have any of your own clients yet. If you share that on your stories, you can go back, 23-ish hours later and be like, who's watched this story so far? If I put a story up that talked about the wins of my bootcamp and I can see who's looking at it, I can message them and say, hey, thanks so much for following along. I was so excited to share whatever it was. If you're following along just for, if you're following along for fun, awesome, glad to have you here. But if you were following along and are interested in learning more about it, let me know. I'd love to share more information with you. I do this, a girl that actually signed up yesterday, let me go back and look at the initial message that I had sent to her, because during my power hour yesterday, I had messaged her and we went back and forth all the day, and she ended up signing up last night. So my exact message was, hey, Julie, thanks so much for following along my stories. I appreciate it. Were you interested in working out in my virtual boot camp with me this month, or just following along for fun? And in this particular instance, when was it? October was my last interaction with her. And I said, I know we had chatted a while ago. I wanted to see if this was a better time. Either way, happy to have you here. So I thanked her for following the stories, asked her if she was interested in the boot camp, or if she was just following for fun. You could end it there. But with her, 5 months ago, I had talked to her. So I said, I know we chatted a while ago. Is this better? Either way, happy to have you. And she wrote back, I am curious, not sure how it works or how it will fit in my schedule. And we took the conversation from there. That was at 8 o'clock last night. And by 9:30, she had signed up as a coach. So this is where just, I guess, the proof that you have to get in people's inboxes, right? Like, I had a conversation with her in October. Obviously, I fell off on the follow-up from her. The conversation kind of died, but she's still following along. And because she followed along in my stories, not because she responded to a poll or told me she was in, she just watched a story. And I asked her, and it grew into a conversation, and she's super excited to get started. So just a little validation of the power of the invite. And I know I'm talking more than getting work done. So hopefully you guys just keep on working while I'm going. But this next part is the actual invite. So I'll go to my stories, I'll go to my posts, I'll see who's watching. And again, I'm talking all about my boot camp. So for me, it's going to be like that message I just sent. That's going to ask if she's, following along for fun or interested in joining. And we'll stick with a 5-minute one for here. And you can keep working while I'm talking through things too. And go. And I will just add to that, I voiced her back nearly everything yesterday. I was voicing her. I sent her a link for information about my bootcamp, which is just like a page on my blog. It could be a Google form. It could be a PDF that you create, but I sent her that. Otherwise, I voiced everything else to her. And she actually sent a message. Where was it? She goes, she said, voice memos must be a game changer for you. It's so helpful to hear the information coming straight for you in such an easy way to understand. So you can type out a book or you can leave a 60-second voicemail and get the same message across. But for me, it was so much easier. And I said to her, I even kind of use it as a coaching plug. I was like, well, because this is like my business is ran in pockets where I'm usually doing 24 other things at once. This is actually so efficient for me because I can talk to you while I'm walking my dog and changing a load of laundry and unloading the dishwasher and still be able to talk to you. So it was kind of just like a way to kind of put it in there. And she had also said another message, I'm sorry, I have one more question. I said, don't be sorry. This is my job. Or I think it said, because it's so late. I said, that's okay. This is my job and this is how it works for me. So I'm happy to get back to you. So I'm just kind of adding that in there. All right, so moving right through our list. So at this point, we have done our initiating, we've done our inviting, and then it's follow up. And just for so you'll see again, 20 minutes was allotted for your connections, and then 15 minutes is on the list for your invites. Adjust these times as you need to. The next one is follow up, 15 minutes. So here's the thing with follow up. Like I said, the example of the girl who signed up last night, I messaged her in October and she never got back to me. And then I didn't message back. I went and looked kind of up through. She had initially reached out because she was interested in Let's Get Up. So that was the spring of last year, right? Like April of last year. Didn't join with that. I've talked to her a couple times, didn't join. But then I never followed up on her. So that's where honestly having a follow-up process is really key. Yes, people still fall through the cracks. She's on my email list. So she would have periodically been getting the emails from me, whether it was like my monthly newsletter of saying what was coming up next or whatever it might be. But that does happen, and it's not foolproof. I do things manually. I mean, yes, when I get someone's email, I put it into an email list so that I can follow up with them. But there's nothing, I don't think, that can be a personal follow up. Again, voice messages can be really powerful for that. If you can directly message someone, hey, I was thinking about you, I'm getting ready to start my next boot camp. Is this something that you were still interested in? Is this a better time for you? I kind of take the assumption that when I talked to somebody once that was interested about joining me, and they didn't actually commit and they didn't follow through on it, that they just got busy, that life happened in some way, shape, or form. I know majority of all of my clients were sick at some point in the month of January. Like, I swear sicknesses ran rampant last month. So I know a lot of people fell off. So if that happened with my clients, I'm sure that happened with potential people too. So I'm going to go at the follow-up process that if I talked to somebody once that said they were interested and I didn't hear back from them, or they ghosted my messages, that life probably happened to them. And it's not because they weren't interested, it's because something else took a higher priority. So it's up to me to go back to them and follow up. I love voice messages. You can even take a little video of you saying, hey, just wanted to touch base, getting ready to close the enrollment into my February boot camp. And I wanted to follow up with you one more time this month to see if this is something you want to commit to. By the way, I do have a limited number of $20 off promo codes. This is an awesome time to join. Let me know either way if you're in or you're out. So take a video of yourself, and then you can take that video and send it off to people. You can take the voice message and just voice it off to people. You can type it out if that's what you would prefer, and type it out to people. When I'm tracking my people, I do use KDML's the time blocker thing, and how, again, very manual of me, but I actually write down like the people that I'm talking to in it's like under the notes section of the book. So like what I do when I'm doing mass follow-ups is I flip back. I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the beginning of January. Who did I talk to every week of January? And it's also cool to go back and be like, oh, well, I messaged her at the beginning of January and here she is again in February. Like, some people's names repeat themselves, and I love to go back and be like, oh, that person did eventually join, even though I talked to them the first week of January, they joined here in February. So I'll go back through and just look at the people who I talked to, who I didn't hear back from, send them a voice, send them a follow or a text message, whatever it might be, and just ask, is this a better time for you? Assume that they're interested. Assume that they want to be a part of what you have to offer, that something just got caught up and they didn't get a chance to get back to you, and have that positive outlook going into it. I'm going to go with, we'll do 7 minutes for this one as we kind of move through these things. So I'll set the timer. If you have questions about it, let me know. But most people have to hear something more than once before they join it. It'd be cool if people just like saw your post and were like, yeah, cool, I'm in, sign me up. But typically it doesn't happen that way. They need you to remind them why this is helpful for them, remind them why this is going to be a powerful thing. That's why we don't just post once. We're posting continuously, we're messaging continuously, and we're following up. And that repetitiveness is what really helps people go from interested to committed. So I'm going to set my timer 7 minutes. It is all about the follow-up.
Megan, if you have somebody that's watching your stories but like you have never made a connection with them, do you go for a connection first or do you go to an invite? Because they're watching your stories with
Yeah, it
like the power hour.
depends. Sometimes I'll go with like the, hey, just wanted to pop in and say hello. Thanks for following along in my journey. And then like what you say after, that's kind of like, you can say, are you following me along for health, fitness? I always say like hot mess mom life. Or and you can just say, like, ask which one, like if there's something that they related to, or you can say, if you may have seen, but I posted yesterday or I posted this morning about my upcoming boot camp. Is this something you would like more information on, or are you just following along for fun? I like to give the options because I feel like if you flat out just, what's our timer? If you flat out just ask if somebody's interested, you don't always get a response. But if you say, are you interested or following along for fun? A lot of people are like, oh, and then they'll tell me how. Like, I like to know why. Like, there was one, it was like, she ended up being, her daughter's on one of the other hockey teams at the same organization as Aubrey. So like, I would have never known that she was following me, like, and she's not interested, but it was now like we've made that connection. And I talk to this mom all the time. Like, she's already said she's not interested in joining me, but like, you get to still just meet other people who have another person with a daughter that plays hockey. It's not a super common thing. So I do like to make that connection. So with her, it was like, were you interested in joining my boot camp or just following along for fun? And she's like, actually, I have a daughter on the 12U this team. And we kind of started having that conversation. So I do like to ask both. I feel like, to me, when somebody's following you, they've made eye contact with you in the grocery store. They've now opened the door for you to be able to say, are you interested? And that's why I like to go by people watching your stories, because you can like call them out on it. It's not like you're going, like, I will not just go to a random person and be like, hi, Chelsea, do you want to be in my boot camp? Like, there's no grounds for that. Like, I'm not, but if you are following me, I love it. Like, to me, that's an open invitation. Like, you are, or you're not. I'm not like, and I do it in a very quick, easy, nonchalant way. I send a lot of those messages out in a day. I don't get a ton of response back, but the ones who do respond are the ones that I want. I'm not trying to get everybody to respond back. I'm trying to find the ones who are following me because they want to do what I'm doing and talking about. So it's kind of like the mindset when I go into it. I'm not trying to be everybody's friend. I'm not trying to get everybody to join, but I am trying to find who here actually does want to build a business, does want to better their health. So I usually ask it. Now, if I'm doing the part of the power hour that's straight up initiating connections, that I'm just going through stories, responding to people's stories. And if I really, really like, if like they have enough stories that I'm like, I actually like jive with this person, I hit follow. And then I go to the next one, watch their stories, try to make a connection. And if I really like them, I hit follow. If it's just a connection and I'm like, me, like one, I was looking, I was like, I like that story. But then the other one was such a stance that I'm so not on with. And I was like, okay, nope. I already sent a message to her, which is fine, but I'm not going to go follow her. So that's kind of what I'm doing at that part of the power hour, right? Like, there's different purposes. But if I'm going through my stories to invite and I've never messaged this person, but they're watching me, then I message them. And if they write back, nope, just following for fun, I always say, well, thank you so much. That alone means so much to me that you're following along in a part of my story or a part of my journey or part of my corner on the internet, something like that. But I think that like you never know who's going to be like, actually, yeah, I am. And that's when you're like, yes, like I knew I should have asked that question. Because if you would have left it at, thanks for following me, nice to meet you, they might have ignored you, or they might have been like, yep, cool. Because it's so hard for somebody to admit they need help. It's so hard to be like, actually, yeah, I'm following you, but I'm following you because I really need it on this boot camp. But if you say, are you interested? It's easier for them just to say, yes, I am. So I take that mentality that I was an onlooker for a long time. Like, I think back, if the people who like Facebook scrolls that I scrolled could have seen the way we can see stories, like, it's funny to me. It's funny to me, people who will watch my stories. And I'm like, you won't say hi to me at the school, but you'll watch my stories every single day. So that's fine. It's no big deal. It's like, to me, it's like, if you could have, I didn't socialize on social. All I did was look. I looked and I was nosy and I was following all this stuff, but I didn't actually make conversation. So I take it that the point that most people aren't going to make conversation, that they're just looking, but I know that they keep coming back, or they have initial interest. And then sometimes you'll get the, well, I'm actually pregnant, but I might be interested in, like yesterday, literally a girl said, I'm due with my baby tomorrow. I'm like, what? You're probably not ready to join the boot camp then. But I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. Is this your first? What are you having? Like, how are you feeling? And I just had a conversation with her. It didn't go anywhere, but now that if we're just interact as people, hopefully she'll continue following. And if she's following me and I'm following her back, because our stuff shows up, that maybe in 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, she might be like, hey, whenever we talked, you mentioned that there was a postpartum program. I think I'm ready to plug in now. Can you give me more information? So always ask and throw it out there with kindness and a smile. And then I feel like there's no bad blood. And then they're either in or they're out, or they'll keep following you. And then you'll get to follow them up and invite them later. Because then that's when you're like, I know it's been a while since we talked. You weren't interested then, but I love to see your face, still following along on my journey. Or I love to see that you're still following me along here. How have you been? That's where you can just you know what I mean? Like, then it's like, before I message somebody, I always scroll up to see where was our conversation last at? Where were we when we last talked? Because I can see, okay, well, she followed me. She responded to a poll. And then I'll do like, hey, I saw you responded. If someone responds to a poll and I message them, they're like, it was just a bump. But then they respond to another poll. Then I'm like, hey, I know, I'm not trying to be annoying, but I saw you responded to another poll, just another bump on your scroll through, or were you interested this time? So I'm always looking back to see where our conversation led off, to see how I can build on that moving forward. And I can't tell you how many people just bump my poll like constantly, but they don't ever want to join, but they're still watching. So I'm like, you know what, keep on watching, because at some point there'll be something that will interest you to where you want to take action. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay, so see, I'm telling you, my internet is a hot mess. I just got kicked out of my back office. Hopefully we don't lose this here, but my browser's just shut off. So the next thing on the business activity tracker, though, is making a social media post, which we won't do as part of the power hour, but you don't have to post a lot. You just have to post consistently. Posting somehow, some way to show up and share. And here we are, February 10th, depending on when you watch this. A week and a half ago, Kendra led the team call for the dream team, and she talked about the 4 pillars, which is just such a powerful thing to build off of. But your 4 pillars are like the things that make you, that you will be talking about on a consistent basis. So when you think about making your post, you want it to fall under one of these things. You don't want it to be like all scattered all over the place. I'm not going to try to convince you to go take my class here and then join my virtual boot camp here and then come take a nutrition course with me here. And like you want to kind of steer people in this, steer them in a certain direction. So when I'm posting on Instagram, I'm posting on Facebook. What I post on Instagram typically goes directly to Facebook, because I have those 2 linked up on a business page. And then I have my personal page. So for the most part, what I post is similar both places. I am currently challenging myself to post a reel a day throughout the month of February. So that doesn't always go over to my Facebook, but I can take the same content that I'm putting in a reel and still put the same content in a post. It might just go with a picture. So keep in mind, you don't have to create new content in both places, but you do need to show up at each place. You do need to show up consistently on your social media, because otherwise when we get to where the last thing on this part of the tracker is responding to likes and comments, if you're not posting, you don't have anything to respond to. And that was one of the things when I was talking to a girl who was like, nobody's joining. I'm like, but you're not doing anything. Like, you're not actually putting yourself out there for them to interact with you, to know if anybody wants to join you. And I can tell you still, 8 years in, I have posts that totally flop. I had one yesterday. I put it up in an hour. There still was not a single like on it. And I was like, son of a bee. Like, do I delete it? And I'm like, heck no, I'll just leave it. So like some of my posts still to this day are really low. And I'm like, okay. So like right now, Instagram hates me. My views on my reels, like the last few days were bad. And my post this morning after like an hour had 6 likes. Guys, I have 35,000 followers on Instagram and my post had 6 likes. And I'm like, you know what? So that one wasn't good. Whatever. Like you can't, like to me, it's like a little bit of a game. And I'm like, I don't delete things because it doesn't matter how many, it matters if the right person sees it. So we could have 6 likes, but what if 2 of those 6 people were like, I jive with you and I want to do what you do? Like, I don't know. So I personally don't delete things. I let it roll. Some are great, some are not. I just keep going with it. But I'm like, but I do challenge myself. What can I do differently? Did I post it at the wrong time? Was the image not good? Or was it my text that wasn't good? You know, there's something in there that's not working. So then I'm going to tweak it as I go. So this part isn't to say right now in your power, stop, drop, make a post, but know that you should be consistently posting. Figure out a time that works for you. I generally post my workout in some form or fashion on my personal Facebook page every morning. And then on my Instagram, I was doing reels in the morning. My last few morning reels haven't done well, but I posted one in the evening, maybe Monday, and that one did better. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to post the 9 a.m. reel that I've done the last 3 days because that 9 a.m. reel is not rocking it. I'm going to wait, and the reel that I was going to post this morning, I'm going to post it tonight and see if it does better than these other ones. I just kind of reflect on it and see what's working, what's not. So I kind of switched things up a little bit from my plan today to see if that would make a difference. And then my Facebook post, the one I did this morning didn't go well. So I was like, that's okay. I wrote a new one, and I'm going to put something else up to see if that one does any better. And then the next thing on the tracker is posting to your stories. So things like this, like I'm on a power hour. I'm spending my lunch hour today with one focused hour moving my business forward. Like any way that you can sprinkle in what you're doing in a way that allows people to see, hey, I could do this too. And I think of that really from the coach side of things. And I've been really challenging myself to share more of the less glamorous stuff. Like last week, there was a day that I had watched my girlfriend's little baby. So I had him from 5 until 9 in the morning. So clearly, if I have an infant for 4 hours in the morning, and I've been out of infanthood, my kids are 8 and 10, so I've not been in that world for a while. And I have a puppy, and my house isn't dog proof. So that baby was in my arms pretty much all 4 hours. I didn't get anything else done. So how did I put a reel up and get a post up and a workout in? Because I did them all in advance. So even though it looked as though at 9 a.m. a post went up or 7 a.m. a story, whatever it was, I did all that the night before because I knew, like I literally put my clothes on for my workout and took the pictures in advance, knowing that in the morning it was get up, work out, take the baby. And then once I had the baby, I wasn't doing anything until, I got him off to school. So that type of stuff. So I went on my stories and I talked about that. I was like, I just want to make sure that you realize that being a business owner requires planning in advance. And I knew going into today, I wasn't going to have time to get my content out, but that doesn't mean I can't prep my content in advance. So I shared that part because somebody who's watching, who's like, this sounds great, but my days are crazy. They may not be able to create a reel at 8 a.m. in the morning, but they might be able to do it in the evening. And that to me was a way to allow them to see that they could do this too. So I think it's important that yes, we share the fun and exciting, and here's the weight loss success of my customer, and here's my successes and my wins. But I'm also sitting in my workout clothes that I still have on, and it's noon. And I'm still in my workout clothes, and I'm snuggled up with my blanket, and I'm leading a power hour, and I'm talking to you guys because this is what it looks like for me. And then I'm going to flip my hats. I'm going to put my mom hat on. I'm going to go pick up my daughter from school. I'm going to take her to a dentist appointment because this is what my life works like and how this business works for me. So like sharing those things, that's what goes in your stories. It could become a post too. But when you allow people to see the ins and outs of your day, they see, oh my gosh, I'm just like her. And if she can do this, so can I. Whether it's the fitness side or the business side, the idea is that when you share all these ins and outs of your life, it allows people to see the piece of themselves in your story. So that's kind of the story aspect of it. And then the very last thing, I know we're kind of coming up on noon here, and like I said, I do have to go get my daughter from school. The last thing is responding to all likes and comments to your post. So if we're not posting, we don't have anything to respond to. But if we are, this is when you get to go interact with people. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see, especially when someone has a really awesome transformation, they might post a transformation and be like, this is what they did. And they have the call to action. And all people do is say how happy they are for them, right? And they're liking it. And they're like, good for you. You look great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But nobody actually said, hey, I want to do it. And they're like, well, nobody responded. I'm like, yes, they did. That like that they put on your post, that's the same as the eye contact on your stories. That's enough for someone. Like to me, if you have enough courage to hit like on somebody's transformation post, then that is enough for you. Then that's your job now to say, hey, thanks for loving my post. Oh my gosh, putting that out there was so scary. But I'm here to tell you that joining that boot camp forever changed my life. And I'm so excited to be able to offer that same opportunity to other women. Were you liking it to just show your love, or were you interested in joining us? And that's why I still post my transformation weekly. Guys, I have weighed 130 pounds for the better part of the last 5 years. Like it hasn't really fluctuated. In the beginning, I was about 10 pounds lighter. I think at a point I was about 115 pounds. My journey as a coach has gradually went up and then kind of stayed flat and steady. But I continue to post transformations. I continue to share how these programs work for me, whether it goes up or down, whether my body changes favorably or negatively. I share all that all the time, because anytime I share a transformation, is the easiest thing to invite off of. And my transformations sometimes are me and my kids, sometimes they're me and my husband, sometimes they're my whole family, and sometimes they're just me. Sometimes it's a program, sometimes it's a decade, it doesn't matter. But I share my transformation constantly because to me, that's the easiest thing to invite off of. And it's the easiest thing for other people to see themselves in whatever piece of the story, your journey that you are sharing. So that's the last part of the tracker. And that is just kind of your bulk of the power hour. I wanted to just kind of run through those things so that when you're thinking, oh my gosh, my coach was like, I can build this business in an hour a day, but what am I actually supposed to do? The things that we just ran through are the actions to do. In addition, on that tracker, we talked a little bit at the beginning about your own personal journey. You know, that is one item, getting people results. So forever coach or challenger, you're showing up in the challenge group as the best challenger, checking in every day. I still do. I still check in every day. I go through and interact with everybody else's, but if our schedule right now with older kids, it's so different from when they were little. When they were little, they were in bed at like 8 o'clock, and then I would work all evening with my check-ins. And now that they're older, we don't even get home till like 9:30, 10 o'clock some nights. So I'm like, at a bare minimum, I will check in. I'll show up. I put my check in. And then like today, it was on my calendar to do it at 2 o'clock, but now I'll be at the dentist with my daughter. But every day I have it to go back and interact with everybody else's check-ins. It just looks a little bit different for me right now. But at a bare minimum, I check in because I want to show up as a challenger. Because if I expect them to check in at the end of their day, then I better be checking in too. So every day I check in, I share my day, I share my wins, I share my failures. And I put that in so that they always see that I am doing the same thing that I am asking them to do as well. So getting your challengers results. And then the last thing of the business activity tracker is your personal development, which right now, this is part of I guess it's all kind of pieces. I have the gratitude journal I do in the morning. This is a prayer journal that I do. And then I always have a book that I'm listening to, and then a book that I'm reading. This one's heavy, not only like literally heavy, but it's like not Brene Brown, which I know Ashley's on here. She's reading this one too. It's all about like emotions and feelings, which I think is super interesting, but it's not like a super fast read by any means. But this is the book that I hard copy read in the mornings. And then I'm listening to Kendra Hall's Change Your Story, Change Your Life, right? Change Your Story, Change Your Life. Choose Your Story, Change Your Life, which is I actually already have read it once, and I'm going back through that. But when I'm in the car, I have found that it is far better to just put positivity through my ears than country music. So I have been listening to book after book, a lot of them that I've done already. Like I'll do Mel Robbins. I love High Five Habit. I think I've listened to that 3 times. And every time I listen to it, something else comes up. But I'm always in the car, so I try to keep something rolling that my kids can listen to as well, because they're with me, and then something that can help move my own progress forward. So there's our power hour in a nutshell. Thanks for joining on and being a part of it. I'm going to snap a picture of those of you who are still on here with me, because what I'm going to do, and I'll tell you, I'm going to go into my stories. I'm going to let people know that part of my day today was leading a power hour to show other women how they can build this business an hour a day. So this will be part of the story, because I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So say cheese. All right. And I would have done it before I hopped on, but I didn't. So when I go live in my stories, I'm going to act as though I'm just getting ready to go host a power hour, so I didn't get to do it before I went on. But okay. Thanks for being a part of it. Have a wonderful day, ladies. I'll get this recording out. And if you need something to share with people who want to know what power hour is about, hopefully this is helpful to them as well. Have a great day.